definitely, especially after watching the last series, like I was in the crowd, I was watching them, and I think that they have the capability of getting to a game
Oh,
3.
were you the one screaming in the front
Yeah, that was me.
and clapping really loudly?
Yep, top of my lungs.
Oh, we actually got to see you on screen, by the way.
I know, I heard.
You were
Mirko told
yeah.
me. Yeah.
But yes, again, Tunisia's game earlier on, as you were mentioning, it was so much cleaner, right? Their execution was clean.
Yep.
Their drafts were great. They understood how the laning phase would have worked and how their composition was supposed to be implemented in the game. If they didn't have a composition that was too great in the early stage, they'd be a little bit more disciplined. They would work with objectives more so and wait for that power spike. So we've seen the adaptations from Tunisia. We've seen the development from Tunisia. And hopefully that's enough, right? Hopefully that's enough to take this away from Egypt.
And that's why I always say, like, when you have this kind of story, because typically, at least, you know, from the matches that we and the tournaments that we've been involved in here at Turna, up to, you know, all around the past year of competitive play, like usually when you get to a grand final, you have 2 powerhouse teams, right? That we're used to seeing going head to head. And even in that sense, when you have 2 powerhouse storied teams going at it, there's always an underdog, right? Like there's always a team that is going to be the one, maybe people say like the odds aren't in their favor or something like that. And that's always the time, because we just came from that. We were just in Rio and we saw basically a miracle happen, you know, when the recent IESF champions did get defeated over there in the mid-season cup. But, you know, that's the thing. I think even when it comes to this, and you bring the looking glass a little bit closer to this, like to the AEC, as good as Egypt is, they could make a mistake. And like that's why I was saying before we had that break, where when you only have a best of 3, if you go and make a mistake in game number 1, it gets a little tougher because you're already facing match point, you know? And what we saw from Tunisia in the previous match, that's what I'm saying. They have all the blocks that they need to actually come out with a win in this best of 3. It's just more so, I think, every single time when we look at the drafts, when we get to that point, it's like, how do they control the early game? I think a lot of games right now kind of go south in the, let's say, under the 5 to 6 minute mark. Like if, you know, you see teams scale up really quickly, depending on the lineups that we see here, like if they're already in a lead, like even a 5-0 lead before the 5-6 minute mark, or let's say even, let's stretch it out a little bit longer, before the first Lord, there's a high chance that first Lord push might be game ending. You know what I mean? And so I think for Tunisia, all they have to do if going against a team like Egypt is get control of the early game. Like whatever that is going to be in the draft, once we eventually, you know, get to our game number 1 draft here, that's what we have to look at. What do they prioritize? Because I know you got your notes from the previous series. Like what was that priority for Tunisia when they were, you know, facing off against Morocco?
It was a lot of different factors, I think. Because honestly, in the last game that we saw when Tunisia was playing, it wasn't them holding a better priority in their mid-prio. It's just their execution was a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it was who were they up against earlier on?
Morocco.
Morocco, yeah. When they were up against Morocco, Morocco had the control of the early game, right? They had the snowball coming through, but Tunisia, they were very patient. They were waiting for the mistake that Morocco made. They found it, and they took it as an opportunity to seize the entirety of that game. So that's definitely something that we should be looking out for, right? That discipline coming in from Tunisia. And it looks like the drafts are starting. We're not going to take a look at it just yet, but we do see a few things happening. We're not going to tell you just yet, though, ladies and gentlemen. It's a surprise.
Let's just, you know what? Let's just, I think it's, I think this is happening.
It.
Okay, well, we'll have the draft up here in a second. I was looking up behind me because there are a couple picks, I believe, already being picked up. I think that is an Edith.
Yeah.
That was the first pick. So we'll see if the draft does pop up here. You guys can see it on the screen as well behind our lovely casters over there for the Arabic language. But it is most likely that Edith first pick. And this is actually a pretty good start. I've actually been looking for the Edith like in a lot of the matchups because of just how solid of a hero it is. And it's even flexible to the sense. Like you could throw it in the roam. You could still actually even put it in one of the side lanes. And it looks like the response from Tunisia is going to be is that a Lolita? Lolita's going to get picked up first. And then you have a Ruby popping up over here. So there's a lot of interesting things. Does that mean that they went and prioritized? I'm wondering, too, in terms of the Ruby Edith, like that's already enough tankability, like tankiness for your lineup already, you know, for Egypt.
And it's a lot of flex. because they can
Who's going
work
where?
it around as best as they can according
Ruby
to the
Gold?
composition that will be set up later on by Tunisia. So there's a lot of things that they can work with here. I'm actually curious to see what the bans were. I'm wondering whether the Zask was banned because we don't see the Roger coming through as well.
I swear
One
I
of
just
the
saw it
hot
picked up.
priorities as well was that. But it looks like the Valentina is one of the picks for Tunisia. So they do have flex in the Valentina, and not so flex with the role, but more so that the Valentina can be utilized in many different scenarios and many different ways.
Yeah.
You can opt for a little bit more damage, I would say, with the Edith takeaway, or you can go in for the I'm Offended from Ruby and get a little bit more tools to work around with to facilitate the Lolita and her Numnon Blast when they go in for the team fights.
Yeah, I think Valentina is still a... It's not like S tier anymore. Remember, there was a time when Valentina would literally be in every single game.
Valentina Faramis.
Valentina Faramis. Man, that's throwing it back like a year, I think, at that point. But Valentina still, so far, what we see, and I don't know the exact percentage, but I think the win rate on her is actually pretty healthy in a lot of the competition that we've seen so far. And it's really because of what you just said. Like, you also force this draft to be a little bit different. Because as you know, once the Valentina is across from you and it's locked in, you've got to be kind of considerate of, like, what ultimates are we picking up that could possibly be stolen by the Valentina and used against us, you know? So something to be said there and something for them to consider. And it looks like we are still getting through the second phase of bans here. And I think, you know, I can't see those. I'm not sure if that is a Zask. It might be a Zask over here, over on Egypt's side if they did. And I'm not sure on that side for Tunisia either. But with that, I think it could leave us still with what is the gold lane going to be? Like, what is the gold lane option? Again, I don't want to throw a bunch of heroes out there because we don't see the bans right now. But so far, at least throughout the tournament, it's been a lot of, obviously, the Moskov. We've seen the Claudes pop up.
Honestly, the
Brody.
Moskov has kind of lost popularity at AEC. Just in AEC particularly, right? We've seen a lot more Hariths,
Harith, yep.
honestly, in the gold lane. A Lila at some point, obviously not a pop hero, but it's usually Harith.
The Layla popped up, was that yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 2 days ago, yesterday.
Time zones.
Time zones.
Yeah,
But
it's popped up, though. Layla's
Harith,
popped up.
Roger.
Yeah.
And what do you think, what else would be priority in the gold lane so far that we've seen? I think it falls around that. Carry as well, I think. Oh, and
Carry.
Natan. We've seen a Natan
Yeah, you
surface
guys-
time
yep, I remember
here
that.
and there, yeah.
Natan is, and which is weird because in other parts of the world, let's say Natan works really well, but for some reason here in AEC, like it seems like it struggles a little bit, similar to the Moskov. And I think Harith has been the go-to. And probably a lot of that is just because of the favorable matchups that you do get, you know, when you lock in the Harith. And that's why still a lot of the times that's kind of the priority. You can see there now, Tunisia. Looks like we're through the second phases of bans here. So that is an export being locked in.
Jungle.
Yeah, Jungle export. We saw this earlier today, too. It worked really well. It was from the first matchup there that we got to witness with the men's teams fighting out for the third place. And it worked really well. It was like, it scaled up so fast. And that's why, again, I was mentioning for Tunisia, if you really want to go ahead, secure yourselves a good game against Egypt, like a team like this, you got to secure that early game. Like, they need, when we do eventually get to the game, they have to be the ones setting the tone and setting the pace from start to at least the first hurdle. Like let's just start there. Baby steps, you know what I mean? Like, don't worry about getting to the Lord later on. Start before that first turtle comes up. Control that point, because there you see it. The Fredrin, wow, Fredrin's going to be locked in alongside a carry here from Egypt.
That's interesting.
Throw it back.
Throw it back. Throw it all the way back.
Is it Throwback Thursdays? Oh,
Exborg.
it's Throwback Tuesday.
Throwback Tuesday. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. But it looks like the Claude is also going to be locked in, as well as the Turizla for Tunisia.
There's the
And we do
Zask.
see the Zask. So you were talking about early game. With the Zask being locked in for Egypt in the mid lane, it is a big deterrent to how that lane is going to go. But one of my biggest concerns is Exborg jungle, right?
Yep.
Exborg jungle against a Fredrin jungle. You would think that the Fredrin would have a bit of a difficulty going head-to-head against the Exborg, but of course, execution is key. And we can talk about this till the very ends of the earth, but it
Ends
all
of
comes
time.
back down to the performance of both these teams.
Yep.
We can hear the claps coming in from the venue here at Casablanca, Morocco. And they are also in anticipation of how this game is going to go. Because once again, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to remind you, this is the grand finals of AEC. After months of the online qualifiers, after weeks getting to this point, after the playoffs and the brackets of the journeys and just everything both of these teams have just really experienced up until this point, it boils down to this. Who will be moving forward to WEC? Who will be able to represent their region at WEC against the titans of the world, the titans of the rest of the world?
Great, once again, great points here. Exactly what's at stake. And I know, the players are probably either still loading or getting situated here. And I can't wait to actually jump into the game because the other thing I wanted to look at, because we already get a glimpse of the heroes that they placed, the battle spells, was the emblems. Like what, and I feel like there's always a time. I know there's a lot of analysts out there, like even viewer analysts, that love to see. Oh, is that a glimpse? Okay, we did get a glimpse, by the way, of the bands. So we get a glimpse of that. So there was actually quite a few. I feel like bands that went out were just respect bands between both these teams, because you see that too. Nolan was actually the last band over here from Tunisia, alongside the Clint, Roger, Jushin, and the Julian. Julian has been another pickup constantly. And I mean, even when we were talking about the gold lanes, like the Roger and the Clint, Clint, funnily enough, is banned a lot here in the AEC.
Yeah, we saw what Clint was able to do in the lane, right? Against a lot of lane bullies like the Harith, the Clint can actually fend for himself in the lane. I think earlier on we saw a Clint lethal ignition, which is something that we don't see quite often, but that increased amount of damage that he had with the DOT from the lethal ignition really did help him secure that lane as a winning lane that ultimately snowballed out of control. And then he was able to participate in the team fights, really dish out that damage in the team fights as well, and pick up a lot of these towers in the side lane. So it has worked out a lot, and it's so famous. It's like a staple hero for a lot of women's MLBB teams. Like even Vitality Shell, she also utilizes this Clint in the gold lane up until this point.
Wonder why that is. Maybe they're just like cowboys.
Because they can do it against the Harith, who's found a lot of success in the gold lane.
Yeah, you know what I think it is? I think it's just like Clint he's such a fun hero to play. Like if you think about it, I don't know if you're a gold laner, if you like to play the gold lane, or all the gold lane mains out there. Clint is one of those heroes. Number one, he's got great skins, I would say, and number two, like everybody loves a cowboy, and I think that's one of the things. But jokes aside, too, Clint is just. There was a time when he was basically non-meta, and like even now he's kind of like, quote unquote, not totally meta. You know what I mean? Like, but he works in a lot of compositions because of the fact that number one, he does quite a bit of damage, like bursty damage, the way he works. But also, I feel like you can actually kind of just leave Clint alone. And he's mostly going to be okay, unless it's just constant, ganks towards his lane. But you allow him to farm up, and then his power spike happens sooner than some of the traditional gold lanes that we see pop up. For example, Claude takes a lot longer, Carry takes a lot longer. But for some reason, especially the way that his ultimate works, and then if let's say you get an early, I'm not sure on the build pass right now, but even an endless battle like that, if that just pops up, the Clint is actually doing a lot of damage from quite a far range, with the way he works. So. Interestingly enough, and there we go. Okay, we're actually going to be jumping in the game now. Game number one here in this best of three. It's going to be Egypt and Tunisia fighting it out for the grand finals here. Again, at stake, a trip to Riyadh for the WEC between these two Titan teams that have made it already up to this point.
So let's dive in, ladies and gentlemen. And the first glance, right? If we're talking about compositions and if we're talking about winning lanes, essentially now Egypt are holding on to two, right? They have the Zask in the mid lane. You can even see them utilizing that rotation to actually bring Mikomi quite low here. I don't think they're going to commit onto it just yet. And they also have a winning lane in the gold lane with the carry. So Tunisia, they do have an opportunity to work with their winning lane in the EXP lane because they have the Terizla. But right now, it looks like they're going to be playing in for the mid lane.
Mid lane. Yuki, okay, Yuki's going to be fine. She might be tired, but she's alive.
She is. So far, we do see once again disc or dusk. Do you know the specifics of it? I forgot to actually ask her how to pronounce her name, but earlier we did say disc. So disc was rotating towards this top side, giving a little bit more additional help towards this Claude to get to the power spike. But meanwhile, they have actually bought some time now to go in for the setup for this next neutral objective. And you were talking about the importance of this first turtle.
Okay, as they get the first turtle, we'll have to see if they actually fight for it, right? Let's find out, too, as Makomi, she does have the level 4 available to her. So they're going to fight, actually, for this. Velvet already, there's going to be the pull. They crash in a little bit longer. Yuki's so tired. Will be the first to go down, and now it's Mary trying to fight to go. Oh, man, but we're going to take a break here. Oh, we're jumping back in. Okay, hold on. I got to see how that unfolded. Velvet's still quite low. And another kill there. That's 3 for Egypt.
Yeah, 3-0 trade so far, and it looks like they're going to be able to pick up that turtle. So when it comes down to it, it's a big win for Egypt once again with a 1. Still going to be able to hold on to this pressure into the mid lane. And this is why we keep repeating as to how Zask is such an important factor in how this early game turns out. The fact that he's able to bully the lane, clear a lot quicker, and then utilize that pressure onto the side lanes and onto the quickness of being able to set up for the neutral objectives.
Yep.
It's been super important, and we see that happening for Egypt. With 2 winning lanes, Egypt are having a better time right now. Sunlight already picking up that Thunder Belt as well. And again, the rotations coming in into this top side. Not really sure how Tunisia are looking for that trade-in because they dearly need it.
Okay. This is going to force another fight once again. Primal Wrath already getting popped down. Look at the damage coming out through. Yuki's so tired, going to have to go away from the demonic descent. And now Makomi on the run. Nucci's still there. Last Insanity going to be used too, but no one actually going down in the exchange. That's the power. You know, you have this just, the Zask being able to provide a lot of that damage, that magic damage early on. It's kind of hard to get through this. And now in the mid lane, Mary could be in trouble here still. She fights on, but that's the body of Smith, the passive for the Trizzla here.
And meanwhile, in the gold lane, right, we do see something happening here. It looks like the Claude is being bullied under tower, is going to be able to trade some damage onto Nucci that will eventually cause her to recall. But again, this carry is having a better time. As compared to the Claude, we do see that Names has a level lead against Raven on the Claude. So that is something that we were expecting from the drafts. Meanwhile, again, Velvet and Mary. This should have been a winning lane for Mary, by the way, on the Trizzla, but Velvet is holding her own in that lane, going with the Brave Smite, and that's something that we don't really see, right? Because for the most part, we do see that the Ruby opts for Warcry, but I think the emblem usage Velvet here with the Brave Smite has worked a little bit better in that trade 1v1.
Yeah, it's more of just like sustain the lane, try to match the Trizzla, of course, and that's exactly what they do, and I think they might just be able to get another turtle here, too. I'm not sure if Tunisia wants to contest this. They're a little bit too late, though. Turtle's going to be scored. Numenal Blast tries to find the mark, but is not going to find it. They get caught into the penalty zone, too. Once again, the descent's going to come down. Last Insanity, though, will be able to find Nucci, and now forcing Disc back a little bit further. She runs to the turret. Will survive with 1 HP. It's only Nucci that goes down. They trade. Yuki is so tired, but the objective once again goes to Egypt.
16.9k. Oh, wait a second. Mikomi caught in a no man's land here. Sunlight so aggressive.
Oh, no. Names jumps in. Was trying to get the last light wheel off, but won't be able to do it. Sunlight's fine, but they trade the turret. So Egypt, all part of the plan, will get another objective in the mid lane.
Wow, another, right? They're rotating so quickly. They're collapsing on these objectives so quickly as well. Their head is 100% in the game right now, and they're looking for more around the map. Egypt, 19k gold lead as compared to Tunisia, who's only been able to amount to 14. So that's a 5k gold lead now in for Egypt. And that space, that damage onto Yuki, that's, oh no, Nucci.
Nucci, Disc. Last Insanity going to be popped. All this around the purple buff. Yuki's so tired. She cannot find a setup that she's looking for on this Lolita, and they're just going to be forced back once again. Raven will be able to get out under the turret, but the rest of her team still on the retreat. She's going to get cut off here. Sunlight waiting patiently Raven, where can you go? Onward, Earthshatter into the air as she'll fall under the tier 2. Another pickup for Egypt.
Another one, and it looks like they're going to be able to get that tower as well. Egypt picking things up left, right, and center. Wait a second, that's an MFN that connects.
Still in the mid lane once again. Yui there on the backside, but Mikomi goes down. Still fighting under the turret. They don't care. Egypt's going to force the fight. Another Onward will throw Mary over, and Disc is going to be next as 4 fall for Tunisia. Double kill for Names, and that's another turret. Tier 2, that will fall.
Again, Velvet, the I'm Offended connected, and the way that everyone collapsed was amazing. Chemistry, synergy, throw all the synonyms on the board because that play was insane, and they only traded Velvet's life for it, right? She was tanking in the tower damage, and they traded 4 members for that. So it's, again, a huge value once again for Egypt. And if we take a look at both of the junglers here, Sunlight at level 10, Dusk is not too far behind. It's a 1 EXP gap, and there is still an opportunity for Tunisia to look for a steal, but because of how far behind they are, I'm not really sure if that's the best way to get to this.
Mary, okay, she still has a flicker, but the flicker in from Names. She was trying to pick up the kill too, but they force it a little bit longer. Earthshatter in. They go in, pick up the kill. Mikomi's going to go down and still fighting over the turret. Yuki's so tired. She's forced back. Look at the damage coming out from Yui. She has no choice but to go heal up, and now they'll take the signal to take the Lord. Down a member, Mikomi not going to be able to join this fight, and I think they just have to give it up.
And remember, right, 8 minutes. It's only been 8 minutes, and Names has already secured her Holy Trinity. DHS earlier being brought into her kit. So alongside with all that damage that she was already having, that true damage in addition on the carry, she's now ready to be that core fundamental in the team fights that they're going to be heading into soon with the Lord being pushed in. Egypt, 8 minutes in, 9 minutes in, still holding on control.
Okay, at this point, with Lord coming down the mid lane, you know, you're down 9,000 gold here for Tunisia. How can they make this work? How can they stay in the game a little bit longer? This is what I was saying, too. You get to this kind of deficit, First Lord, it could possibly be game-ending. Numenum last, only going to find Sunlight. I'm not sure if that's exactly what I want to commit to. Earthshatter Onward combination already going to be used. Yuki's so tired will be deleted off the map, and they get zoned out by Velvet once again. Penalty zone, the last stand here is going to be used, but it's a double for Yui. And now the turret is going to be worked on. Lord's still up, 4 members down. It's only Raven left alone. And she has to watch the team, the base. It's going to be worked on. There's nothing she can do. But watch as Egypt will take game number 1 under the 10-minute mark.
Under 10 minutes, Egypt take control and are going to be leading this best-of-3 series in the grand finals here at AEC against Tunisia. That final moment when Raven was alone and all she could do was watch, it was essentially her on stage, right? She was alone on stage as well. While all her other members and all her friends were setting up, and she was the one that had to figure out a way, but it wasn't enough, man. She couldn't defend it alone. She didn't have the ultimate popped in. She didn't have the blazing duet to try and clear. Not enough time. It was a big steamroll for Egypt. And did you see the faces of the Egyptians, man?
See Velvet. I mean, she's locked in.
She's locked in. She's feeling it. She's cold.
She's locked in right here. And again, this is, you know, the crowd is here for Egypt too. And they're just, once again, this is a team that has a ton of experience lately. And if you just look at the game, the way that this was played from start to finish, it takes certain teams with that kind of synergy to make it work under the 10-minute mark. You know, this is something that we have seen even in the men's games here up to this point. It's just like some of the games are ending from that 8 to 10-minute mark, and you know, clearly these ladies have gotten the synergy. They've played together quite a bit, and it shows here in game number 1. And I think really when you look at it and try to find like where could Tunisia kind of fought back into this game? You know, where would they find a winning moment for them? And that's always the question when it's a game that's very one-sided, because you're constantly asking yourself, how can we find a way to get gold in our pockets without risking too much? Because once those bounties build up, I mean, look at the disparity in terms of gold here, the gold difference, right? You would have to risk so much to get one member of Egypt down. And this is why the Zask is so important. The Dominator's Descent is just, it's, as personally as a mid player myself, like I hate playing against the Zask because you can throw so much at him, and then he just pops that, pops the ultimate, and he's got a whole nother health bar you have to go through, right? Not to mention just tons of damage. And you can see this because Yui, she does get the MVP here, 4-0-12, absolutely insane. And that's the thing, man. Like, when you're looking at how the game unfolded, I just feel like they were choked out, and Tunisia really didn't have a opportunity.
Sorry to cut you off there. Is this right?
We gotta bring back the tape,
Yeah.
What I'm saying, like, we gotta have to take it for a grain of salt because, as we've gone through, we have seen, of course, like some of the items that have popped up over the course of AEC and even the heroes, right? So, but if this is what we're seeing here, talk about a build.
Honestly, we can ask her. She's over on this side of the stage. Yui. Where is she? Yui, is this your build?
Is this your real build?
No.
Okay.
No, okay.
Thank
you for that confirmation, right? Because again, War Axe and Endless Battle on his ass, I was like, is this a new meta that we're not aware of?
I don't want to expound on it because I just wanted to make sure, right? So, because let's just say if this was, I'm sure there would be a lot of people in the ranked games like being like, hey, Yui did it.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I would have tried it when I got home.
Yeah, same.
I'd be like, Yui did it. But it's really nice that we're like super close to the the players as well. So when we want to ask something, we can, and we can actually ask her a little bit more about it after this break, ladies and gentlemen. Because before we continue on to the grand finals, we will be going to a short break. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned for more MLBB action. See you. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, to the grand finals of the MLBB Women's here at AECX ISF. And here, back again in this best of three, Egypt are still holding that first point. And on the caster desk, it's me again, Eterna, alongside with Naisu, and we will be accompanying you throughout the entirety of this grand finals.
The entirety of it, you know, we're getting through it. Game number one, if you guys missed it, it was, again, pretty strong, pretty dominant here. I think this is what we were expecting, obviously, from Egypt. And really, when we got to see what they pulled out in the draft, and it's about as standard, I would say, as it can be. I think any team that is getting that Zask is going to be tough to deal with, number one. I know that wasn't the build that we saw earlier on. You know, we even asked you, was that the right build? But either way, regardless of the build, it was just like this lineup from Egypt. They know what they want to draft. They know the win conditions, and they made it work. And it was a very quick game, you know. And I think if you're Tunisia, again, looking at it, it's always the same thing that I was saying before even game one started was they need to be able to control the early game. If they're not able to get any type of control early game, then it's going to be very difficult for them to do anything against a team like Egypt. I mean, you saw the way, too, that they're very calm and collected. Like, Egypt has been on the stage internationally before. They've competed. They've seen what it's like to also lose some major games. Like, they had their own struggles just about a month ago dealing with some of the competition and everything. And I think when you I don't know. I can't remember if this is Mirko that says this, but, like, it's not an L for loss. It's an L for learn.
L for learn.
L for learn, right? And I think, like, if you look at what happened with Egypt's time just a month ago, they learned so much.
They did.
They took a big L. They learned a ton.
Which is why I find Egypt and their performance just so impressive, because I got to talk to Nucci actually yesterday, and she mentioned that they're functioning without a coach. So the way that they've been drafting so far has been impeccable, right? And I think we were talking about how they were able to get that decisive victory in game number one. And it really goes to show that their drafting is so intelligent. They were able to get 2 winning lanes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, earlier on, Tunisia weren't able to utilize that 1 winning lane that they had. And then they had to fall into the snowball pattern coming in from Egypt in the early stage of the game. So now, coming into this draft, ladies and gentlemen, game number 2, match point, championship points, actually. Tunisia are going to respect the Zask this time around, right? A Zask has been banned out, the Terizla with it, and Egypt's response is equally as threatening. Jushin banned out as well as that Roger.
Man, I swear I've only seen Jushin picked up maybe once, at least for the stream games. For the most part, it's still relatively banned out. But if you look at other parts of the world, a lot of times they're actually letting the Jushin go through because there's actually been I remember back, just maybe last month when we were really wondering, like, how is Jushin going to play into this meta? And she was very strong, like if you remember, right when she was allowed to be picked up. And I think teams now, they have an answer to kind of deal with that. And a lot of the times, even the Tigreal off the top of my head ends up working well against the Jushin or even against the Zask pick that we see here. So either way, I think once again, as we get through this banning phase, there's the Chip, another hero that has played a vital role in that have happened here for the AEC.
Yeah, Chip is going to be respected away now for Tunisia. And now Egypt, what are they going to be banning out, right? Because we've seen a different flavor of priorities. We've seen the Hylos being banned out in the first phase. We've seen, what else?
First phase?
Mostly.
Some gold laners?
Ling has also been a priority ban. Moskov as well. So we're going to see what Egypt decide here. What do they think is a priority ban for them, especially going head to get against Tunisia.
You're going to throw me off too. What turn?
Tunisia.
Tunisia.
And it's the Edith. So that's a important ban as well, right? The Edith has found a lot of success. We've seen it being a lot more popular in MWI, at MSC as well. The fact that it's so flexible, the fact that it has damage as well as utility capabilities. But then they left the Julian open for grabs. So the Julian is going to be picked up now for Tunisia, and Egypt go ahead and go with the Ruby and the Hylos, the wombo combo here.
It's already scary because anytime you have the Hylos pop up, like that is, it's weird because how fast this Centaur, I think it is Centaur has like risen up in ranks in terms of like the picks. Like he's on his own glorious pathway to the tier list, and he's so detrimental to the opposing team dealing with a Hylos, and then you throw a Ruby on top of that, and which, mind you, is flexible, still adaptable, at least with the Ruby. You don't know exactly 100% sometimes where this is even going. It could go in the XP like we have seen, and it could also go in the gold lane. We've seen gold lane Rubies too, but this is the answer. Right now, when have we seen a CC pop up? I feel like it's been a minute. It's been a while. Maybe in a couple times up through the group stages or even the online qualifiers, but CC has just fallen off, as far as XP laners go.
I agree. I think the CC is... I think the last time I saw the CC was Fnatic Onyx pick it up at SPS, but it didn't really work out the way that they wanted to. It was Lutpi playing the CC in the EXP lane. We've seen CC being flexed into the gold lane time again, but again, not too much of a good win rate with it. So, but Tunisia here, they're doubling down on the fact that, okay, we see Egypt's composition. We know how sustainable they are with the Hylos that will go, COD, Thunderbelt, and just have that sustainability coming through. And they have the Ruby as well to boot. So that's a lot of HP that they need to, take under control. And so they pick up the carry, they pick up the CC. It's very understandable. And if the Ruby does get flexed, technically there is still a possibility that the CC could work in the EXP lane against the Ruby. And now they pick up something like the Nolan here for Egypt. So Nolan jungle for Egypt this time around.
Nolan is still, for me, it's such a niche pick. Like, you really have to be able to make it work. We saw this in the men's games earlier today. The Nolan was brought up. You would think that some of the times that you're kind of overextending, trying to push some of the lanes, trying to cause some havoc. But a lot of times, Nolan alone, like let's just take the fact that he can assassinate really quickly, like some of these targets early on. It's also he's just very slippery. Like it's very elusive to catch him and try to lock him down. And I think that's what makes Nolan great in certain players' hands. And we'll see that here, of course, for Egypt. And so really for Tunisia, it's just the same concept. Like, well, how do you deal with that? You already did pretty good. You have a Julian that has a lot of CC crowd control, I should say, because we have an actual CC here. You have a lot of crowd control available to that and also damage. And it makes me wonder, again, what is the option in the mid lane going to be to pair up with a Julian? Because that's what we see every single time. Anytime a Julian is locked in, it's drafted. You see the likes of like some of these burstier mages picked up. For example, earlier on today, we've seen Valentina picked up. You also have seen a Lunox paired with a Julian, which actually can provide quite a bit of early burst damage. And I think that's kind of the way that Tunisia has to go, once again, is locking down at that early game. What better way than to do it with a solid mid lane option? That solves our answer, though. Harith is going to be picked up by Egypt here, so at least we know, hey, Ruby, yeah, it's probably going to the XP lane, right? It's not going, obviously, going to be flexed anymore to gold lane, and so it leaves us with these last 2 picks from Tunisia.
It's curious why Tunisia didn't find that opportunity to, allow the clock to go through.
Yeah.
Right? I think, like, theoretically, it would have been better to ban out the Harith instead of the Claude, because technically the carry is a winning lane against the Claude as compared to now the carry against the Harith, which the Harith should have a better time in the gold lane. So now they have to think about this, right? These last 2 picks are going to be very detrimental. We were talking about them holding control over that early game. How? How do they hold on to that early game, right? You were talking about that mid lane presence. What's the answer, right? With the Lilia being banned out already, they don't have that as an option.
There
and it looks like they're going to go ahead with this, right? And technically now, Egypt, they have the Valentina option to go head-to-head with the Netherrealm that the Faramis can utilize. But it looks like they're like, no, don't need it. We're just going to use the Vexana, because technically the Faramis is going to allow that competition to clump up, and the Vexana can punish that. The Vexana can capitalize over that when they go in for team fights.
Drop the EG, like we like to call it, the Eternal Guard.
EG.
The EG, I think I forgot who coined that one.
It's probably Mirko.
Probably,
he abbreviates everything.
No, it's Leo.
It's Leo?
Mirko also
That's
abbreviates
why.
everything because of the fact that Leo does. I think it was EG, but regardless of the fact, the Eternal Guard is going to be great into the lineup that we see here, because you were mentioning it after the first 2 picks were picked up here from Egypt, Eterna. It's like, you're going to have a ton of durability and light and like health bars to go through. Well, why not pick up a Faramis to at least add a little bit, of your own with the Netherrealm, try to go ahead and match some of that, extend the team fights. And I feel like in a way it's a good response to what we saw already, but you're going to have to fight in a very forced corridor. We're talking about a Zaman Force. And interesting, too, that Velvet's going to run with a Flicker here. She's quite low. I think she's going to have to go back to base, after that one, because even with the Hylos, we've seen a difference where you got the Revitalize, you've got Vengeance Hylos as well. So we'll see how this Flicker ends up working out, exactly what they want to do. And again, before we jumped in, it's like you have the glorious pathway into the Zaman Force. So it's a glorious force, that's you're going to be fighting into. And so for Tunisia, that's something they always have to keep in mind, especially when the objective fights turn out.
You're right. 9 seconds left for that objective to spawn here into the Land of Dawn. Sunlight right now at level 4 as compared to Dusk, who's also at level 4, so there is a 50-50 fighting chance. It looks like both these teams are going to be setting up here in the EXP lane as well.
All right, they're going to drag. Mikumi goes in for the drag. Still waiting for that level 4, though. Plenty of members of Egypt up there on the top side for this first turtle take. Name's doing work. This is what we expected, though, with the matchup here, Harith versus the carry. Velvet will get the level 4, and that's already Sunlight securing the objective. Glorious Pathway going to be dropped down. Oh, Yuki so tired, still going to be alive. Netherrealm to help her out, but still fighting in the jungle. Eternal Guard going to be dropped down on the members, but Yuki jumps back in, gets multiple flickers out, and now Velvet somehow, someway, still alive. No members going down just yet, and Disc looking for her own kill, but no one from Egypt, despite them being 1 HP, will not fall.
Okay, so that's an advantage that Egypt holds. Despite the fact that there were no members taken out of the board, they were still able to get that objective. So if we're talking about early game, technically they do still have control over it. Sunlight level 6 as well, so she is a level ahead of Disc at the moment, and that will give them an advantage when they collapse next on this next neutral objective. So what's the big idea now for Tunisia, right? Do they try to extend as much as they can? Try to wait for Raven's power spike right now? It looks like both teams are going to be rotating towards this gold lane, but Nucci...
Wow, everybody there forcing the fight under the Zaman Force. First blood already picked up, and Sunlight will grab another, possibly going for Raven. Sunlight might have more on her mind as she's going to put the pressure here under the turret. Yui there, this part of the fight too, but Mikomi going to hold down the wave. She could be in a bad position here. 3 versus 1, forcing out the Netherrealm. Can she clear out the minions, clear out the waves? It looks like she's going to be okay. So Mikomi holds down the turret without dying too. So Egypt looking for more, but Tunisia, we'll see if they can kind of equalize things here in the lanes.
That's a big question. Can they equalize in the lanes? Because despite them not losing that turret in the bottom side, Names was still able to pick up a lot of that gold shield turret, so that will help her extend that lead that she has already against the carry, as well as get to those item power spikes a lot quicker. Dusk already rotating here in the top side again. Both of these teams are pushing around this next turtle. Dusk still now going to be able to have the same level. So it really depends on how both of these teams set up. It all depends on Velvet, it depends on Nucci, and there it is, that's the setup.
She already used the ammo fended. She's going to back off from it though. Sunlight, there's the glorious pathway once again coming out from Velvet. Sunlight's going to get knocked up into the air there. Eternal Guard's going to be dropped down too, and now Yuki in trouble. Taking a couple of hits, trying to run away from it, but they'll clean up the kill. It's Nushi that grabs it. Turtle still for the taking, less than half health here. Dusk trying to keep it together, and they fight for it, but it's secured by Sunlight again as Yui picks up a kill. Netherrealm going to be used, but it's I'm offended to find 2, and now they're trapped amongst 3 as Mary jumps over the wall. It looks like she's going to be okay, unless Nucci. I don't know if she's going to be able to grab it. It's a little too risky. Egypt happy with what they already got.
2-0 traded in, a kill as well as a neutral objective, and it looks like that has propelled them to a 4K gold lead. Meanwhile, again, Names, she hasn't really been inside of the way things have gone just yet. She hasn't really been a part of it, but she is a force to be reckoned with at some point, right? Tunisia, they're going to have to think about this. They're going to have to figure out a way to shut her down, because now 1-0-1 on this Harith, that damage is going to be ramping up, and we'll see that pull through here right now as Nucci looks for another opportunity.
Nucci was looking for Yuki. Not going to be able to find her this time, but they know a lot of this information that they're here to go ahead and just kind of get in the defensive mode once again. Relying on the heals too from Yuki to keep Raven okay. Some patience here, of course. Nucci and Names waiting patiently, but I don't think much else is going to happen here. Nucci will go ahead and spot it out. She forces them back still under that turret.
Wait a second, Yui.
Late, Yui gonna get pulled with the Stampede, and now Disc looking for a kill. The Eternal Guard trying to keep her alive. She will fall the Disc, but there's the return as a double for Sunlight. Now in the mid lane, they'll focus on the turret. Yuki is so tired, trying to get to the fight, but Names is gonna join it. Popping the Zaman Force into the Netherrealm, gonna get cut off by the glorious pathway. They have nowhere to go as Yuki will fall, and still the turret goes down. That's going to be enough. Egypt will go ahead on the retreat. Turtles up in 10. Nucci.
Another control now. Nucci actually figures out of that. Nah, say goodbye to Mary, I think.
Mary looks like she's going to be okay. She popped the Vengeance, though, but nearly picking up a kill, too. So it just seems like Tunisia, you know, a lot of the times they find these multiple members of Egypt down to a sliver of health, but they just can't finish the kills off.
Not just yet, but Raven was able to get a trade in the bottom lane there, picking up a tower, so that is a small victory for Tunisia, trying to keep things at bay. And if we take a look at the items here, understandably, the damage coming in from Names is already there, right? Feather of Heaven so far, she doesn't even have her core items just yet, and that's already how much impact she has in these team fights. Meanwhile, it is going to take a little bit more time for Raven on this carry. I do believe she has one item, the Corrosion Scythe, on the way to her second. I believe it's a DHS. But absolutely no fight, no contest. Egypt going to pick up that next turtle.
Now it looks like they want to go ahead and take up this Tier 1. Glorious Pathway once again dropped down. Yuki takes the brunt of the damage, tries to heal up. Motivational Roar going to be used, and then goes in, back for the knockup. She could be in trouble here, as it's already a mega kill for Sunlight. Nucci's going to get punished. Quite low here. They go back to the Tier 2. Mary falls as well, down a little bit further in the bot lane. Names just doing her thing down there, and Sunlight will go ahead and pick up the kill, all under the Tier 2 turret. Egypt just dissecting the defense here from Tunisia.
8 minutes, a 5K gold lead, and Sunlight is on a roll. You were doubting a little bit, right, about this Nolan pick, the fact that it's such a niche pick, but the way that Egypt have utilized it, they've definitely taken advantage of that early game damage and burst potential that this Nolan has. 504, lethal ignition as well, by the way. So she understood the assignment, she understood what she wanted to go for, and the execution has also been phenomenal. Look at this again. Even Yuki is having a difficult time opening up the map, giving information and vision because of that poke, because of that pressure and damage that Egypt already holds onto here in the 9th minute of the game.
That's a little bit too much, especially when your Minotaur, your front line is getting poked down that quickly. Very difficult to find the initiations that, could turn the tide of a game here already at this point, nearly the 10-minute mark. And it looks like Egypt's on course to what they did for even game number 1. Yuki, wow, look at the damage. That's the burst we were talking about. Another decisive pickup. Glorious Pathway going to cut them off from the turret. Nowhere to go for Mikomi as she falls. And Egypt will pick up kills and turrets and make their way. There's a bit of a push from Disc up top, but ultimately it's just going to be a Lord focus here from Egypt. Maybe even some resources.
It's Tunisia now on damage control, right? That's what we're seeing. They're losing a couple members here and there, and they're looking to sacrifice that in order for them to regain their footing and perhaps try to force it into the later stage of the game, because these turrets are going to be valuable, right? As many turrets as you can. If they are going to be able to fend off as much as possible, and if they can force this to that later stage of the game, then it will come in handy. Now that Raven has picked up the Corrosion Scythe, unfortunately, though, I do believe Names already has the Holy Crystal.
Yep.
Yeah, she has 3 items alongside with it. She has a Starlium Scythe to boot. So she really is on that power spike. And how do you take down Names? How do you figure out a way? I mean, technically, the only person that can look for that opportunity is Yuki. But I believe that the Minotaur is not the best person to rely on if you want to go for a head-on engage. She's really great at counter-engage, but full-on engage, I believe it requires something else, a different tool.
And that's the thing, who's that going to be? At this point, talking about 7,000 gold behind Lord bottom side. Tunisia just trying to hold on to some of the space that they can, but look at this, a Vengeance already going to be popped by Mary. Might have wanted to save that for the base defense too, because right now Egypt getting ready to knock on the door. Tunisia getting ready to knock on the chance to get to the WEC, of course, at the stake here. And now Lord nearly there to the base. It looks like Egypt go ahead and manage the waves nearly perfectly as they get ready to punch one in. Turret's going to go down. Names also quickly picks up Divine Glaive. Damage in full force. Lord now on the bottom side. It's up to Tunisia holding it on. Glorious Pathway going to be dropped into the Eternal Guard, forcing him back. Yuki deleted like she's not even a tank. Ravens to follow. Velvet, little low. She'll finally go down. Lord's still going to be up though, and they're just going to work on the base here as Egypt will go ahead and sweep the series and make it to the WEC as they are the champions for AEC.
Congratulations, Egypt! We started AEC with 8 regions here, and it came down to only one, and that one is Egypt, the chosen one here for the African Championship. And they're going to be paving their way forward, having a little bit of another taste, and perhaps a pathway of revenge back into Riyadh to find that second chance at glory.
They get another shot. Basically here they went to Riyadh recently. They're going to go get a chance to go again and take what they've learned throughout the process again, the L that they had, and they take that learning experience, turning it into a learning experience, and now look at they're on top of the AEC. They get to this point, and every single game they played, every single match they played was
undefeated.
I would say it was just undefeated. It was in their favor, like by a big lead. And I think, again, for all the teams that had to face Egypt throughout the entirety of the course, even back in the online qualifiers, like, this is kind of what you want to aim to be. You know, this is what you're going to look forward to. This is what you want to look, and even to an extent, cheer on once they go and represent, you know, the country over in WEC. I think that's a thing that they're going to be doing, hopefully, as good as they've gotten. I hope to see them get to, you know, far into the playoffs, even for WEC.
And if there's anything we've learned so far, Riyadh is a place where the unthinkable happens and where dreams are made.
That's true.
Right? You come in, you thinking that Titans are going to be taking over, but the fact is, the underdogs are usually the ones to be able to take it. So it's a big shot for Egypt once again, back in Riyadh. Excited to see what they can take for themselves once they get there, and it's been such an honor to be a part of their journey, right? We saw
100%.
them in the open qualifiers.
Yep.
We actually got a chance to talk to them as well with the interviews, how different they have come to this point, how much more confident they are. Honestly, it's been an honor to see them grow.
Yeah, it's and it's funny because that's the thing. It's like you've seen them grow, you know, even back in where we first met them a month ago, even before IESF online qualifiers. You know, you got to see them, you got to interact with them, and then seeing to where they are now on the stage has been phenomenal. It's been a great experience, and I hope that this is enough time between now and the WEC that they even get more time to practice, get more time to be prepared, and bring their best showcase, you know, for WEC. You can hear the crowd, too, of course, congratulating them as they are on stage, and it's been amazing to see them get to this point. And it is going to be names that gets the player of the match there, too. Just great performance, you know, on the Harith. Got a lot of that time to just kind of farm up herself and join the fights when she really needed to. But, again, what makes this team from Egypt really stand out is just the synergy that they play with, the amount of reliability they have on each other. And it really shows, right? Because even from the draft, like, they're confident in what they bring to these games, and they execute it nearly perfectly. So it's almost in a similar fashion where it's like, I can't wait to see what they do in WEC.
And this is technically a different roster.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah,
it's a shakeup.
From Falcons, Vega, Mena, right? When they were together at MWI. So even the open qualifiers, if I'm not mistaken, it was Electa in the jungle position. But with this new roster, with this new lineup that they have brought onto the table, it has worked out so well. So it's like they've been together for so long, but of course, congratulations again. And thank you to all the other regions that participated. The fact that they were able to come this far, especially for Tunisia, they put up a great fight. And of course, I hope that this is the beginning of their journey and the beginning of the African region. And hope we get to see their names a lot more often on the international stage.
Yeah, definitely. Can't wait to see, can't wait to see more of this and how this is all unfolded up to this point. And it's just been a great platform. So I hope even for, all the women's teams out here, they've really enjoyed the opportunity to be out here for the AEC.
So thank you guys back at home as well, in the audience as well. Thank you so much. We're going to throw it over to the host. It's been me, Eterna, alongside with Naisu, and we'll see you tomorrow.
مرحبا بكم مرة أخرى معنا مباشرة هنايا من القاعة المغطاة ديال مركب محمد الخامس ديال الدار البيضاء من بعد هذا الماتش، من بعد لا فينال اللي تلعبات بين جوج من أكبر الفرق في الإي سبور في أفريقيا، مصر وتونس. كنعلنوا رسميا الفريق المصري بطل إفريقيا للعبة MLBB سيكسيون فيمينين. مبروك عليهم، مبروك على الفريق المصري، مبروك ايغالمون على الفريق التونسي. اون دوزيام بلاس اللي هي كتكون فريمون مهمه بزاف، اللي لعبوا بزاف ديال الماتشات وتكاليفيا وحتى وصلوا لافينال، ولكن مالوغوزمون ما حالفهمش الحظ، مي طاحوا كونتر واحد ليكيب ديال مصر اللي كانت عنيده وقويه جدا جدا. So guys, let's all congratulate the Egyptian team for this title. Africa champions of MLBB female teams. So I'm just going to ask the captains to join me, please. Raven from Tunisia, can you please join me? Raven, please. And of course, the Egyptian captain too will join me. واحدة واحدة بليز واحدة واحدة خلاص واحدة واحدة. Okay, so I'm gonna be starting with Raven. Raven, Team Tunisia, second team. You were confident about winning this game, but unfortunately, unlucky.
Unlucky. It's we're gonna go. We're gonna come back stronger next year.
Why not? And as I heard, this is the first experience with that female team, with that team on MLBB. There is something I always ask the players to do. I know that there are a lot of people watching this live stream on YouTube or on Facebook. Just have a message for foreign players, for other players of MLBB.
Women or males? Okay, so focus on yourself and have faith on yourself. I know it's gaming is usually a field for guys, but women have chains too, and you can be whatever version you want yourself to be. You can be the best women player, and you can even gap guys. Like, it's for skills, it's not anything else. Just believe in yourself.
Please give them a round of applause. Tunisia, second place of this African Esports Championship Casablanca 2024 in a fair play image. Please give them a round of applause, Team Egypt. Give them a round of applause. Encourage them. Okay. So, let's go to Team Egypt. Team winner, team champions, road to Riyadh. What's the next objective?
To win in Riyadh. That's all.
Nice. And are you confident enough? Do you think that you have what it takes to go and win it there?
I hope we doing well in Riyadh, and we won all the cup of the world. That's our next target.
Nice. So, guys, congratulations again to Team Egypt, champions of this AEC Casablanca 2024. And now for the group image, group photo with the two teams. And congratulations again, ladies and gentlemen. Let's meet tomorrow for the final rounds of this AEC 2024 with two huge finals. CS2 at 1 p.m. between Tunisia and South Africa male teams. We will see who will be the next CS2 African champion, and of course the grand final of MLBB male section with our national team. Morocco playing against Egypt again, so we will see who's gonna be winning, who will be the next African champion. This AEC 2024. Let's meet tomorrow, guys. Thank you for watching us today. And yeah, go ahead.
I want to thank I thank you for all who support us, like Coach Alfu and Yasu. Yasu was bigger supporter to us. If you know him, he is a big host in Mobile Legends Bang Bang. So thank you for them all. Thank you for all Egyptian organizations. Thank you, Mr. Shuib. Thank you for all. And I hope we will the next tournament in Riyadh. Thank you.
Inshallah. Thanks a lot. So, guys, let's meet tomorrow. Bye-bye.